So what's this map got to do with the housing market here up in Northeast Florida in this Jacksonville metro area? Well, I'm going to show you what it may affect home sales, or it may affect where you want to buy a house if you're looking to buy a house in Florida. I'm going to explain all that data. But this show here is Bubble Watch, and I'm in season 3, and this is week 26, where I look at the real numbers in real estate. That's right. I'm just a regular guy who happens to be a real estate agent up here in North Florida, and I take you into the back end of my MLS account every week, and I'm going to show you those numbers. Some of the things I go over here tonight, I look at those active listings, which is your inventory. I'm going to look at how many are actively under contract, how many are pending, okay, how many new homes sold in the last 7 days, and all these solds I do from a week ago, because I do this every week. So we keep track weekly to try to see what the pattern is, or to catch that bubble, you know, after it bursts, or if it's on the way up, okay? That may help you. We're gonna cover rates too, and a whole lot more. So get ready, because right now we're gonna start off with the back end of my MLS and those active listings. All right, here we are in the back end of my Northeast Florida MLS account. And what we're going to do is go through these different statuses and then put everything together in charts. Okay, what I want you to do is focus on this area right here that says View Results, because as I click on these different statuses, that's where the results will show up. All right, first we're going to start off with those active listings. That number is 9,750. Okay, next we're going to take a look and see how many sold in the last 7 days. That number is 449. Okay, next we're going to look and see how many are active under contract. That number is 1,121. Now these are homes that are under contract right now, and they do have contingencies, and those contingencies could be like inspections, loan approval, appraisals, things like that. Okay, next we're going to take a look and see how many went pending in the last 7 days. That number is 336. Okay, those are ones that are under contract and they passed their contingencies and now they went to pending status. So when you add up pending and active under contract, then you will get the total under contract. Next we look and see how many people withdrew their listings in the last 7 days. That number is 59. Next we're going to look and see how many expired in the last 7 days. There we go, 278. Next, we take a look and see how many new homes sold in the last 7 days. That number is 87. And then we look and see how many are active in the new home category. And that number is 2,294. And that is your inventory for new construction. Okay, next I look how many active listings are in foreclosure status. That number is 148. Next, we'll see how many are in pre-foreclosure. That number is 14. And how many are in short sales. That number is 42. Okay, hey, all that information, now that data we just saw there in the MLS, I'm all exporting it into an Excel spreadsheet. It's going to look like this, all jumbled up. Now, this contains a lot more information than what I just showed you right there, okay? So I'm going to pull all that information out and put it into my own Excel spreadsheet that's going to look more like this, where we can actually look at the past weeks easy and even the past years and compare those numbers to really get an idea of what's going on. All right, so right now, let's see, while all those numbers are crunching out, let's take a look and see what the rates did this last week. All right, here we take a look at the rates, and we're here in Mortgage News Daily, and these are the conventional 30 years. Down here is where we always begin on these rate charts. Right here we see where we left off last week, and on this it was 7.09. Okay, it stayed well into here to the 7s and even jumped up quite a bit there. And then we saw a pretty good decline here today to 6.98, which is really basically 7, okay? It's close enough to be a 7 almost. As we look over here, the prior years, okay, we see we aren't, we need to come down a lot more to get that spread back to over 1% like we were seeing there a few weeks ago. Okay, the FHA rates are generally a little less, so here we are. We were at 6.61 last week, ended up at 6.48, so we did have a little bit of a drop there too, and you can see the prior years over here on the side also for them. And the VA rates usually follow pretty close to the FHA. We left off at 6.62 last week, ended up at 6.5. And you see that, the arrows there, a couple green and several red. And then, of course, over here, the prior year in this column right here. It was just a few weeks ago, I was showing the year before on the rates, and the spread was getting larger and larger. Now it's getting closer and closer. Okay, so what's going on? Although, we're supposed to see some more rate cuts here, so we'll see, but it doesn't always affect the mortgages, okay? But now that the election is behind us, we'll see how the results are gonna affect, the housing market, rates, and the stock market, and all that stuff, all right? So right now, let's take a look at those Excel spreadsheets I was telling you about. All right, as we dive now into my Excel spreadsheets to give you all the complete information here, I want you to focus right now on this column right here, Season 3, Week 26. That's our current column. You notice it's in yellow, and you see the other columns in yellow. Those are the previous weeks, okay? So it's easy to compare the last 2 weeks, all right? Next to us, this column in the white, that is last year, okay, at this time. So it's easy to see right next to this column what was last year. YOY is the percentage of change in the years. SFH, this column here in the light blue, and this one here is our current column, and this is where I pull out just the single family home data, because that is the majority of the sales. So I pull that data out by itself. Okay, here in this column is, you see what all these rows stand for. We see the active sold, active under contract, and so forth. So let's start off with this week's current here and take a look where we were. Active listings, 9,750. That is our inventory. And as we can see, it is down from last week. Okay, now, and then of course, when you look last year, it's dramatically up, over 33% from last year. Sold, homes sold in the last week, okay, 400 in the last 7 days, 1 week, 449. So that is down from last week's surge, but up from the week before, okay. No hurricanes in the mix this time, all right. Now, next, active under contract, 1,121. Pending, 336, brings us a total under contract, 1,457, which is up from last week's, okay, slide. Withdraws at 59, expireds 278, so we saw a lot go up there. Now those expireds, no telling, it's interesting, without going into a deep dive, it's not always price. We run into a lot now, insurance, okay? Homes cannot get sold, with financing because of insurance problems with that house. Sometimes things need to be fixed before closing, and the seller does not have the money to do it. They put the house up for sale, because they couldn't afford to fix things, So it's a messy situation for some, and that could be some of our expireds. Okay, new homes sold, 87. Big drop from last week's surge. Big drop. Almost back where we were 2 weeks ago. New homes inventory, 2,294, and that has dropped. Okay. Now, in the orange down here below, this is the percentage of homes sold that are new. So we are on just over 19% this week. And now let's go over to the single family homes, and you see there where those numbers came out as far as your actives, your solds, active under contract, your pending, total under contract, withdrawals, expired, new homes sold, and the new homes active. Now that percentage there of the new homes that sold is 17.46. And just, quickly before we get to the rest of this, just so you can see, these numbers go all the way back to when I started this show. Back there on week 1 was in May of 2022. And for those of you that are interested, and a lot of you have done this, but I know I got a lot of new people to the show every week, is that this Excel spreadsheet that I use on this show is available for download from my weekly newsletter. If you subscribe, all you do is send an email to this email right here. Say you want to be put on the newsletter, and it comes out every Tuesday. And you can download the same Excel spreadsheet and follow back. All right, how do people pay for these homes? Okay, here we are. Cash deals, okay, up up this week from last week, 26%. So over 1/4 of the deals were cash. Conventional loans, 37% or almost 34. FHA, just over 19. VA, just over 13. And others jumped up to over 3%. Now below right here, you see the numbers. These are the actual units of the amount of homes that fell into those categories. Okay, the foreclosure numbers now. These are the foreclosures that are in active listings. These are not total foreclosures that have been filed throughout the Northeast Florida here. These are the ones that are actually active listings for sale, but status as these. Foreclosures 148, pre-foreclosures 14, short sales 42, total 204. So we did see an increase this week in the total under these foreclosure statuses. I know a lot of people are happy to see that. They are wanting to see more foreclosures. Me, I don't like seeing the foreclosures go up because that means people are losing their homes. But I understand that the more foreclosures on the market puts, more pressure on the prices to drop. So some people want to get in a house. I just wish there was a way to get these house prices lower without seeing people lose their homes. Next, we look at the percentage of homes that sold under list, at list, and above list. So the percentage of homes that sold under list jumped up to over 80% this week. Homes that sold at list also dropped a little bit, and the homes that sold above list went down to 6%. Again, below is the numbers that you can see that correspond with the amount of units. So right there you see 361 out of the 449 sold were sold under list. So that kind of even makes it more dramatic, showing you how much the change is. All right, next we look at price categories. Okay, homes that sold 500 and above. 1/4 of all homes sold were 500,000 above, and that 500, remember, that is $500,000. Okay, now 400 range. Okay, 14%, so that dropped some. 300 range went up a little bit to over 26%. The ones in the 200s dropped a little bit to just almost 22.5%, and the homes that sold below 200 went up a little bit to 12, almost 12.5%. Now below again, you can see the actual units sold in that, and you see there that ones that sold above 500 and then that in the 300 range. That 300 range is definitely our sweet spot. Okay, next we take a look at the new construction homes and how they did under list, at list, and above list, and we see 77% sold under list price, while homes that sold at list dropped to just over 12.5%, and homes that sold above list actually went up this week, okay, over 10%. And again, below it, you can see the amount of units that sold in those categories. Okay, right now I'm going to get into what is called MLS Advantage. That's where everything I've shown you so far has been in the Northeast Florida MLS. MLS Advantage, what I do is I take in these smaller MLS boards and get the data from them for their solds, and then put that together and combine it, and we have a total there. That gives you, that's in 9 counties in this Jacksonville metro area, and I put that all together just to give you a better idea of the whole big picture up here. And then I also break those numbers, sales numbers, down by county. So you'll see what Duval had, St. John's, Flagler, Clay, and so on. So we do all that numbers too. Now the MLS Advantage, is something that I do every week where I show all this. So hopefully it'll give you a better picture. Hey, if you like the way that I put all this together here, then with the charts, the graphs, and how I set it up so that you can follow, then give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel and be part of Bubble Watch Nation, then just hit the subscribe button. All right, let's now hit MLS Advantage. All right, here we are into MLS Advantage, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at those 9 counties. And so those 9 counties here are Baker, Bradford, Union, Clay, Nassau, Duval, St. John's, Flagler, and Putnam. Then what I do is I go over here and I hit the search button. Okay, and that works out to 607 properties. All right, now we'll take a look and see where those numbers fall into. That 607 total we see here falls into the categories of the counties. And we see here Baker County had 5, Union had zip, same as last week, Bradford down to 5, Clay County at 69, Nassau went up to 65, so they had an increase in sales. Duval County also dropped to 247. St. Johns County had a drop to 127. Flagler at 76. Putnam at 13 for our total of 607. All right, we're going to quickly go through the condominium stats right here, and it's pretty much the same Excel spreadsheet that was for everything, and those included the condos in that, but I separate the condos by themselves here, and as you can see, I started doing this later, so this is week 36 of the condominiums, as you can see in the yellow column here, and then you see the previous weeks before that. So it's basically the same format as what our others. We do have a little bit of differences because of condos being a little unique. So you see right here, we start off with the actives this week was 1140, so you see that's a little higher. Sales way down to 24 from 42 before. Active under contract 90, pending 15, total under contract 105, withdraws 9, expires 46, no new condos sold, and new condos actives 22. Now, this is strange because there was one put in the MLS as a new condo last week, and now it's not there. So, but it didn't come up as a sold. So I don't know. All right, how did people pay for those condos? You can see right here the cash, conventional, FHA, VA, and others. And then right below it, I have the units, the amount of units that sold under those type of financing options. We also look at the foreclosures of condominiums that are in active listings, and this is pretty much the same as last week, so they're probably the same ones. And this is common with the condos, as you can see from previous weeks. Okay, now we take a look at the condos that sold under list, at list, and above list, and you can see under list, I mean, it was a whopping almost 96%. Condos that sold at list, okay, it was just one, so that came in at 4.17, and none above list, and you see the numbers right below. When we look at the price categories for the condominiums, we'll see that 500,000 and above, 1/5 of them sold for that. Condos in the 400 range was just around 12.5%. Condos that were in the 300 range was 1/4 of all of them sold. In the 200 range was 16.67, and 1/4 were also below 200. And again, we can see the numbers below. All right, nothing new in the new again this week, so we move on. Okay, because condominiums, are going to be affected by this law that comes into effect that will goes by the total stories of the complex, and that's what you see, total stories here. That's the total stories of the complex, and then here I show how many units were sold at those. So there was 5 sold that were 1-story complexes, 10 units were sold in a 2-story complex, 4 in a 3-story complex, and so on, because the law requires them to build these reserves if they're 3 stories and above, and their ages also they're 25 years to 30 years. And because of the age of the condo matters, we show it here. I show each one of those numbers, like 1973, that's 1 unit, and then we show that it was a 1-story unit. 1982, and was a 1-story unit. So those aren't affected by the law, okay? But when you start getting into, as we move down, the 3-story units, you see those older ones definitely are going to be affected. And then we show, of course, the higher stories. And this is total what was sold. Okay, when we break it down by the counties, you can see 2 were in Clay, 15 in Duval, 6 in St. John's, 1 in Nassau. And this here, I break down, it shows the original list price, the closed price, which was the selling price, and the difference. These were all ones that sold below list price, but it shows you the difference below list price at what they sold for. Of course, that top one there sold for $255,000 below list price. The second one was $120,000, and so on. And I'll just scroll it down so that you can see them all. Okay, now we're going to do houses of the week. That's where I take a house that sold below list, one that sold above list, and then show you the data on it. And then also we put it into appreciation calculator to see how well those people did. We look at what they paid for it, what they sold it for, and look at a lot of stats and a history on that. Now with those houses of the week, I also do the condos of the week, and sometimes we have one that's sold above, sometimes we don't. All right. Now, if you'd like, since I'm a real estate agent that's licensed in the whole state of Florida, if you ever like to put me into the mix, whether you're buying or selling here in Florida, then just give me a call and we can talk about it, or I can come out and meet you in person. All right, so now let's go to, before we get to the houses of the week, let me go over that map and tell you what it was. Okay, this map here that we're looking at, this is actually a map of the average for homeowners insurance annually what people are paying. Okay, you see in South Florida where it's all black there, and then other areas, you know, where you've got like a, you know, like a burgundy color, then the red and yellow, stuff like that. Well, this here breaks it down. Okay, you can see right there that you can see the colors, and we're, you know, down there in the black, which is the worst, that like 4,000 and above, and then it gradually goes down to 3,000 to 4,000, 2,500 to 2,300, and so on. Now, of course, those are averages. Some may pay less, some may more. In fact, if you look up here in the Northeast Florida, you see, with the exception over there right on the coast, that our rates are better than a lot of parts of the state. Now, there's a lot of people that may look at it and say, well, you know what, I don't, you know, I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to another state. Well, here, look at the country, and you can see where these prices are. Okay, so if you go to Georgia, what are you going to get? Now, how much are you going to save? Another 500 or 1,000 a year? Okay, you've got to figure for yourself, is it worth it, that extra, you know, whatever it would be, like $80 a month, $100 a month, to live in Florida. Okay, and you got to make that decision. All right, now I will tell you this: new homes, okay, now I'm standing actually in front of a new home. New homes have better insurance rates, and I know for a fact people that have gotten rates on brand new homes this year, okay, that were in the homes now were in the 300 range, in the 300s, and their rates are below $2,000 a year, even though this shows that our average is a much higher than that up here in this area. Theirs was a lot lower. And so, you know, because of the way it's built, because of the roof and things like that, that all matters. Also, insurance goes by you personally. They look at credit scores and stuff like that, so it isn't just about the house. And you know, when I show my homes on my Sunday night show, I do have an insurance checklist now I show to help people, you know, knock these items off to get you a better chance of getting insured. All right, now let's start off with those. Oh, and the reason how does this may affect home sales? Well, people look at that monthly payment as principal and interest, but you got the taxes, okay? But the insurance, you know, if that keeps going up, okay, which you don't really have a limit on that, that could affect, okay, whether you be able to afford that house or not, and you got to anticipate those increases. Now, as far as the taxes, once you're homesteaded here in Florida, they have something that's called Save Our Homes, and they cannot raise your taxes more than 3% a year. Now, if you catch them doing that, then you have to notify them and let them know so that they can adjust it. And now with the inflation the way it's been, it's going to be 3%. But sometimes when the inflation's lower, then that increase will not be 3%. And there's going to be people saying, no, they're always going to hit you the 3%. No, they won't. I've seen my own taxes that I've paid less than a 3% increase in the past. All right, now let's get to those houses of the week. All right, we're going to start off with the house that sold below list price. This house was built in 1991, 1,697 square feet on almost 22 acres, okay? So a large farm area, or very rural area. It's in Bradford County, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. On all these homes of the weeks, we start off at the bottom here. This bottom price is where they started off at, the pricing. And as you can see, as they make changes, it goes up there. Over here on the left is the statuses of the events that happened, like price changes or open houses. Over here on the right, DOM, is days on the market. Okay, so this one started off at 600, and all of the houses of the week are going to follow this same format. This one started off at $679,000. Okay, after about almost 2 months on the market, they dropped it to $625, then they dropped it to $575. After it was at that, let's see, I think they even brought it down even more, okay, to $549. They got an offer for $525 and they took it. Now this house ended up selling for $309 a square foot is how they show it in the MLS, but that's not really true. One of the bad things about this is they don't take out for the property for all the acreage, and I do that when I do you know, a CMA for people, or, you know, trying to help buyers, you know, find out what, you know, what is, you know, a fair offer. but in this case they don't, so it shows it like that. So that really isn't really accurate for that house. The house would be worth that. The property's worth a lot more. And this one here won't have an appreciation calculator because this property looks like it was in the family since it was built, and then it was handed down and to relatives, and then they ended up selling it after the death in the family. Okay, next we're going to look at a house that sold above list price. This one here, built in 1982, 1,651 square feet in St. Johns County. All right, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. We look at the history on this. They started off at $399,000, and in 6 days they got an offer for $430,000, which they took. They listed this thing as a fixer-upper, and apparently in that neighborhood, you know, fixer-uppers are worth over $400,000, okay? And then they took that. Now this here also won't have an appreciation calculator because it was the original owner of this home. Okay, next we're going to look at the condominium that sold below list price, okay? And we don't have any that sold above, so we won't be showing one of those. This one here was built in 1983, and the total stories of the complex is 12 stories. So this one definitely falls under the new law, okay? It's it was in Duval County, 2,024 square feet, so good size condo. It's 3 2.5 bath. Over here we look at its monthly fees, and its monthly fee is $576, okay? You know, I mean, and there's no limit to that, and being of the age and all this, and who knows what repairs. Now, it's overlooking the river is what it is, so it has a spectacular view, so someone must have felt it was worth it. This one started off at $650,000, okay? And after 82 days on the market, they took an offer for $575,000. That brings this one here to a price per square foot, of $284. Now this one here was purchased back in 1999 for $215,000. And when we put it into an appreciation calculator, we see that they had it for over 25.5 years, and the appreciation 3.91%, so it was a little bit below what you would want to get. But considering that it is an older condo and it's above the 3-story mark, and there is a risk involved in those condos right now, they probably did okay, you know, getting out for what they did. All right, now that you look at all this data I put together and everything, you know, it really is a lot of information to try to figure out what you're going to buy or sell. I always say don't try to time the market, you know, just go with what you can afford. If you can't afford it now, then you're going to have to wait and see. But if you try to time it and it's wrong, then you may be left out. That's a decision you've got to make and see. And you got to put all these factors, insurance, taxes, and the cost of living and everything into it. So, hey, you know what? Hopefully that gives you a lot of information for you to use. And until next time, I'm out of here.